before we dive into this deeply emotional and thought-provoking story, take a moment to press that like button. It means the world to me, and it helps spread these meaningful stories to others who need them. You're amazing for being here. Now, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below so I can see how far this message is reaching, because this story is exactly for you. Let's begin. No one ever thinks they'll be the person who gets overlooked. No one imagines walking into a room and feeling invisible, as if their worth has been erased by someone else's assumptions. But that's exactly what happened to Dr. Marcus Hale on a cold Thursday morning in late November, a day he'd never forget, no matter how hard he tried. Marcus had always dreamed of becoming a doctor. Growing up in a small town where opportunities were scarce, he'd worked tirelessly to prove himself. He studied under flickering lights when the electricity bill couldn't be paid. He stayed up nights reading textbooks borrowed from teachers who saw something special in him. And now, at 34 years old, he was living his dream as a surgeon at St. Michael's Hospital, one of the most prestigious hospitals in the region. Yet, despite all his accomplishments, there was still something about him that made people question his place. Was it his skin color? His quiet demeanor? Or maybe it was just easier for some to assume he wasn't who he said he was. That morning, Marcus arrived at work early, as usual. The hospital corridor smelled faintly of antiseptic, and the hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. He wore his crisp white coat, his name stitched neatly above the pocket, Dr. Marcus Hale. Still, none of that mattered, not today. As he stepped off the elevator onto the 5th floor, he noticed 2 nurses talking near the supply closet. One glanced at him, then whispered something to the other. They both turned to look at him again, but not with respect or acknowledgement. They looked past him, through him, as though he were nothing more than part of the scenery. "Excuse me," one of them said sharply, cutting him off mid-step. "Can you grab those boxes over there?" She pointed toward a stack of cleaning supplies piled haphazardly against the wall. Her tone was dismissive, almost annoyed, as if she expected him to jump at her command. Marcus froze. He could feel the weight of her words pressing down on him. For a moment, he considered correcting her, telling her exactly who he was. But instead, he simply nodded, picked up the boxes, and carried them to the supply closet. Why bother explaining himself? He learned long ago that some people only see what they want to see. But little did Marcus know, this encounter would set off a chain of events that would test every ounce of strength he had. Let's dive deeper to see. Later that same morning, chaos erupted in the emergency room. A young boy named Owen, only 8 years old, was rushed in after collapsing during recess at school. His parents, frantic and tearful, clung to each other as doctors scrambled to stabilize him. Owen's condition was critical. He needed immediate surgery to remove a blood clot pressing dangerously close to his brain. Time was running out. The head nurse frantically paged Dr. Reynolds, the senior neurosurgeon on call. But Reynolds was stuck in traffic miles away, delayed by an accident on the highway. In desperation, the nurse turned to another name on the list, Dr. Marcus Hale. When the page came through, Marcus felt his stomach tighten. This wasn't just any case. It was life or death. As he hurried to the ER, he couldn't shake the memory of how he'd been treated earlier that day. Would anyone trust him to save this child's life? Or would they doubt him again, even now when it mattered most? When Marcus entered the trauma bay, the room fell silent. Owen lay motionless on the gurney, tubes and wires snaking around his tiny body. His parents stood nearby, their faces pale with fear. The lead nurse blinked in surprise when she saw Marcus walk in. "You're Dr. Hale?" she asked hesitantly, glancing at his coat as if trying to confirm herself. "Yes," Marcus replied firmly, meeting her gaze without flinching. "I'm here to operate." For a split second, he thought she might argue, suggest waiting for someone else. But then she nodded briskly, handing him the patient file. "We need you to scrub in. Now!" As Marcus prepared for surgery, he couldn't help but wonder, did they call him because they truly believed in his skills, or because they had no choice? Either way, he knew failure was an option, not for Owen, not for his family. The operating room was eerily quiet, except for the steady beeping of monitors. Marcus focused intently, his hands moving with precision as he worked to remove the clot. Hours passed in tense silence, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily on his shoulders. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he stepped back, exhausted but relieved. "It's done," he told the team. "He's stable." Owen's parents burst into tears of gratitude when they heard the news. They hugged each other tightly, whispering prayers of thanks. When they finally met Marcus outside the OR, their eyes shone with admiration and relief. "Thank you," Owen's mother said, her voice trembling. "You saved our son's life." Marcus smiled softly, though inside he felt a storm of emotions swirling. He wanted to tell them everything, that he'd faced doubt and disrespect before stepping foot in that operating room, that he'd carried those heavy boxes earlier that morning, wondering if anyone would ever truly see him for who he was. But instead, he simply nodded and said, "It's my job." Yet, even as the family thanked him, Marcus couldn't shake the suspicion that others in the hospital weren't so quick to celebrate. Whispers followed him down the hallways, and sideways glances burned into his back. Some colleagues congratulated him politely, but their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes. Others avoided him altogether, as if his success somehow threatened their own. Why did proving himself feel like such an endless battle? Let's keep going. Days later, Marcus found himself sitting alone in the hospital cafeteria, staring blankly at a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. He replayed the events of the past week in his mind, the humiliation, the triumph, the lingering sense of unease. Just as he was about to leave, a familiar face approached his table. Dr. Evelyn Carter, one of the few people in the hospital who had always treated him with genuine respect, slid into the seat across from him. She was older than Marcus, with silver streaks in her dark hair and kind eyes that seemed to understand pain without needing explanation. "You okay?" she asked gently. Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to burden her with his frustrations, but something about her presence made it hard to hold back. Slowly, he began to talk. About the boxes, about the whispers, about the ache of constantly having to prove himself, even when his actions spoke louder than words ever could. Evelyn listened quietly, nodding occasionally. When he finished, she leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. "Marcus," she said softly, "the truth is, people will always find reasons to doubt you if they're looking for them. But don't let their fear dictate your worth. You've already proven yourself to Owen, to his family, and anyone willing to see. The rest, well, that's their problem, not yours." Her words lingered in Marcus's mind long after she left. For the first time in days, he felt a flicker of peace. Maybe she was right. Maybe he couldn't change how others saw him, but he could control how he responded. Still, the journey wasn't over. Challenges continued to arise, testing Marcus's resolve in ways he hadn't anticipated. One evening, weeks after Owen's surgery, Marcus attended a hospital gala honoring staff members for their contributions. He dressed carefully, choosing a sharp suit and tie, hoping to blend in seamlessly among his peers. But as he mingled with colleagues, he couldn't ignore the subtle exclusions. The way conversations stopped abruptly when he approached, or how invitations to join certain groups never extended to him. At one point, he overheard a group of doctors discussing recent cases. Someone mentioned Owen's surgery, praising the skill required to perform such a delicate procedure. "That was incredible work," one man said. "Who handled it?" Another shrugged dismissively. "Some new guy, I think. I didn't catch his name." Marcus clenched his fists, biting back the urge to step forward and claim credit for his own achievement. Instead, he walked away, retreating to a quiet corner of the room. Why did it hurt so much? Why did their indifference cut deeper than outright hostility ever could? Just as despair began to creep in, a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Dr. Hale?" He turned to see Owen's mother standing behind him, holding a plate of hors d'oeuvres. She smiled warmly, her eyes lighting up with recognition. "I thought that was you," she said. "We haven't had a chance to thank you properly since everything. Owen's doing so much better now. He's back at school playing soccer again. We owe you everything." Tears pricked at the corners of Marcus's eyes, though he fought to keep them at bay. "It's my job," he repeated, echoing his earlier words. But this time they felt different. Hollow. "No," Owen's mother insisted. "It's more than that. What you did, it changed our lives. Don't let anyone make you forget that." Her words struck a chord deep within him. For the first time, Marcus realized that validation didn't have come from those who doubted him. It came from knowing he'd made a difference, from seeing the joy in Owen's parents' eyes, from hearing the laughter of a child whose future he'd helped secure. And yet, the road ahead remained uncertain. How many more times would he face prejudice? How many more battles would he have to fight before earning the respect he deserved? Let's keep exploring. Months passed, and Marcus continued to excel in his work. He performed countless surgeries, saved numerous lives, and earned the trust of patients and families alike. Yet, the sting of bias lingered, lurking beneath the surface of everyday interactions. One afternoon, while reviewing charts in his office, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. It was Dr. Samuel Pierce, the hospital's chief administrator. Tall and imposing, with a reputation for being stern yet fair, Pierce rarely interacted directly with junior staff. So when he knocked on Marcus's door, curiosity immediately took hold. "Dr. Hale," Pierce began, taking a seat across from him. "I want to discuss something important with you." Marcus tensed, unsure what to expect. Had someone filed a complaint? Was he in trouble? Pierce leaned forward, folding his hands on the desk. "I've been observing your performance closely these past months. Your skills are exceptional, and your dedication to patients is unmatched. However, I've also noticed certain challenges you faced." Marcus's heart sank. Here it was, the conversation he dreaded, the acknowledgement that he wasn't fully accepted, that his struggles were visible to everyone except those who caused them. "I won't pretend to understand what it's like to walk in your shoes," Pierce continued, "but I do believe talent should speak louder than prejudice. That's why I'm offering you a leadership role within the department. You'll oversee surgical training programs and mentor incoming residents. It's a chance to shape the next generation of doctors and perhaps inspire change along the way." Shock rippled through Marcus. He hadn't expected this. A promotion? Recognition? It felt surreal, almost too good to be true. "But sir," Marcus ventured cautiously, "what about resistance from others?" Pierce sighed, his expression sobering. "Change isn't easy, Dr. Hale. There will always be obstacles. But sometimes, breaking barriers requires stepping into positions of power. If anyone can handle it, it's you." For the first time in a long while, Marcus felt hope stir within him. Maybe this was his opportunity to rewrite the narrative, not just for himself, but for others who might follow in his footsteps. The months that followed brought both triumphs and trials. As Marcus settled into his new role, he encountered resistance from some colleagues who resented his rise to authority. Comments whispered behind closed doors, passive-aggressive remarks during meetings. It was clear not everyone welcomed his leadership, but Marcus refused to let negativity define him. Instead, he poured his energy into mentoring young doctors, sharing lessons he'd learned throughout his career. He encouraged them to embrace their unique perspectives, to use their voices to challenge outdated systems. Among his mentors was a young woman named Clara Bennett, fresh out of medical school and eager to make her mark. Like Marcus, she faced skepticism from peers who underestimated her abilities. Watching her navigate similar struggles reminded him of his own journey and strengthened his resolve to create a more inclusive environment. "You belong here," Marcus told her one day, after witnessing a particularly dismissive comment from a senior doctor. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." Clara smiled gratefully, though uncertainty still lingered in her eyes. "It's hard," she admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever truly fit in." "You will," Marcus assured her. "Not because they'll change overnight, but because you'll prove them wrong every single day." Slowly but surely, Marcus began to see shifts in the hospital culture. Conversations opened up. Walls started to crumble. While progress was gradual, it was undeniable. Years later, Marcus stood on stage at a national medical conference, delivering a keynote speech about overcoming adversity in the healthcare field. As he spoke, he reflected on the twists and turns of his journey, the doubts, the victories, the moments of despair and triumph. "When I started my career," he said, pause and scan the audience, "I often wondered if I'd ever escape the shadow of other people's assumptions. But over time, I realized something important. True strength doesn't come from avoiding challenges. It comes from facing them head-on, from refusing to let fear or prejudice dim your light." Applause erupted as he concluded his speech, and Marcus felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He'd come so far from the man who once carried boxes in silence, questioning his place in the world. As the crowd dispersed, a young medical student approached him, clutching a notebook nervously. "Dr. Hale?" she asked timidly. "Your story, it gives me hope. I've been struggling to find my footing, but hearing you talk makes me believe I can do this." Marcus smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You absolutely can," he said. "And remember, you're not alone. Keep fighting, keep believing, and never stop shining." So, dear listener, what did you take away from this story? Where are you watching from? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that like button if this resonated with you. Stories like these remind us of our shared humanity and the power of perseverance. Here's the lesson to carry with you. No matter how many times the world tries to dim your light, remember, it's not their opinion that defines you. It's your courage to rise above, to keep moving forward, that shapes your legacy. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and always believe in your ability to overcome.